Afternoon, everybody. I saw the other day there was a person who was doing impressions and he did a Justin Trudeau impression and he landed the Simpsons role. And so Justin Trudeau was on The Simpsons the other day, and this meme was at the top of one of my feeds this morning, and I thought it was kind of funny. It says, Simpsons writer 1. Okay, we need a political character who's even more corrupt than Mayor Quimby and even dumber than Chief Wiggum. Simpsons writer 2. No problem. And it's a picture of Justin Trudeau. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. A little bit of Ontario news, because there's some things coming out about the next Ontario election, maybe having some electoral reform in my home province. That's interesting. CTV News Windsor is reporting, quote, next Ontario election should be held on school holiday or weekend. And Ontario's chief electoral officer says the province should hold its next election on a weekend or a holiday to provide easier access to polling stations at schools and keep children safe. This is one of 13 recommendations Greg Asenza made in his post-vote report on Ontario's 2018 election. Asenza says while Elections Ontario pays for security at schools, the safety of children would be enhanced if voting was moved to a day classes were not in session. He also recommends the province extending the 29-day writ period to help elections run more efficiently. Asenza says the current campaign length requires Elections Ontario to deploy materials and staff with tight turnaround times. The report also recommends giving the arm's length agency the ability to levy fines for minor violations of the province's election laws. So maybe some teeth to our election laws. One other little bit of provincial news. Doug Ford says Ontario student protests about union thugs and not class sizes. So he was in an interview and he called the unions, I'll read it out here. Link is in the description if you want to hear the whole thing, and that's just fine. I hope you check out the extra links and stuff that I leave down there for you. So anyway, the Global News is reporting, quote, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is linking a province-wide student protest over education reform to the influence of teachers' union, quote, thugs. Ford made the comments during an interview with The John Oakley Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto on Thursday. He said a lot of parents and students were disappointed by the protests, which saw high school students across the province walk out of class. Quote, this isn't about class size, gentlemen, he told a panel of guests on the show. Quote, this is strictly from the union thugs, as I call them, the teachers' union, one of the most powerful unions in the entire country. There's finally a government with a backbone that wants our kids to start learning math. Well, finally, thank goodness. And I think that it's interesting where he took that, because at the beginning you could be like, yeah, get Mr. Ford, just like all of the media currently is trying to push. But at the end, the push is, let's teach our children these basic skills that should have been taught for the last 15 years instead of this garbage discovery math trash that have meaningfully reduced our kids' ability to do math. We are worst in Ontario math, or worst in Canada math performance-wise. Or one of the worst, I believe. And we reduced since 2003 on the international stage. They track it, and we can see the results by province and by country. So it's very interesting. I've talked about it before, and I'm not going to get into it now. But I'm glad Mr. Ford is keeping his eye on the ball, and that is getting our kids educated and keeping them out of the political discussion. They get to join the political discussion when they're 18 and adults, because that's our system, right? And using them as pawns. We're going to walk out. I have no patience for that. None. Zero. This is a story that just kept getting bigger, and I thought, what is this? CTV News is reporting, and this is today. Like, this is 2019, April 23rd. This is today. The Philippines Duarte, and he's the leader of the Philippines, threatens war if Canada doesn't take its trash back. What? This is honestly the first I've heard of it. And I did a Google search, like Philippines, trash, Philippines. Nothing came up. It took a little while for me to find what I was looking for. And it's pretty funny, really, when all things said and done. But the fact that Mr. Trudeau didn't do anything to rectify the situation coming in, this happened 6 years ago. But we'll get there in just a minute. I've got 3 news articles about this. 3. Yeah. The first one goes like this. Philippines President Duarte threatened to declare war if Canada doesn't take back the trash a Canadian company sent there more than 6 years ago, according to local media reports. If Canada doesn't reclaim the garbage as early as next week, Duarte said, he would send the garbage back himself, according to news outlets The Inquirer and ABS-CBN News. Quote, I want a boat prepared. I'll give a warning to Canada. Maybe next week. They better pull that thing out or I will set sail to Canada and I'll pour the garbage there, Duarte said during a briefing about a recent earthquake. Quote, I cannot understand why they are making us a dump site, he said. If Canada didn't listen, Duarte said, we'll declare war against them. Translated from Filipino, Duarte also added, quote, we'll fight with Canada. We can take them down. I'll return their trash. Just wait and see. Quote, I'll load the containers to a ship and I will advise Canada that your garbage is on the way, Duarte said, stressing Canada was belittling the Philippines. Prepare a grand reception. Eat it, the garbage, if you want to. More than 6 years ago, Chronic Inc., a Canadian plastics exporter, dumped more than 100 shipping containers of garbage disguised as plastics for recycling into the Philippines. The containers arrived in Manila in 2013 and 2014. The trash consisted of used adult diapers, newspapers, plastic bottles, and bags. Some experts have said the garbage violates international law. Last week, Anthony Ho, a lawyer for the Pacific Center for Environmental Law and Litigation, said the shipments violated multiple parts of the Basel Convention, a 30-year-old treaty that prevents countries from shipping hazardous waste to the developing world without their consent. Okay, so to read this article, we sound terrible, right? We've got companies ignoring international conventions and shipping garbage to the Philippines with adult diapers. I was like, what is going on here? What happened? So we went back. I went back and I found this. Containers of Canadian garbage languishing in Philippines port. And this is back in March in 2015. So Justin Trudeau knew about this and it was reported by the Canadian press. They say, quote, 50 containers of reeking Canadian garbage, including used adult diapers, have been languishing in the port of Manila for almost 2 years, sparking recent protests in the Philippines by environmental and public health activists. Quote, Prime Minister Stephen Harper's government is an embarrassment to the civic-minded and environmentally conscious Canadians, Priest Robert Reyes said in a protest last week on the steps of the Canadian Embassy. Quote, we know this is not the real Canada. We urge Prime Minister Harper to take immediate action. Take back your illegal waste shipment now. But a spokeswoman for Foreign Affairs reiterated the government's long-standing opinion that the case is a private commercial matter involving a Canadian company and its Philippines partner. The embassy engaged the government of the Philippines and its appropriate agencies to actively seek to assist and resolve it in keeping with the spirit of collaboration and cooperation that characterizes our country's relations, Amy Mills said in an email. Chronic Inc., a plastics exporter based in Whitby, Ontario, shipped the containers, supposedly filled with recyclable Vancouver plastics, to the Philippines in the spring and summer of 2013. But upon inspection, the country's Bureau of Customs found the containers were filled with stinking household garbage, including used adult diapers and kitchen waste. The Bureau said the material could, quote, pose biohazardous risks and impounded the shipment. And so again, it sounds bad, but I may have misspoke. Mr. Trudeau was not in charge in March of 2015. The election was in October of 2015. So Harper was still in charge at this point in time. But that doesn't mean Trudeau didn't know about it. He would have been prepped and probably reading the newspaper every day and having people tell him what the news of the day was. This would likely be a footnote if it was mentioned at all. So maybe not, right? He might know, might not know. So this is the last one I found. So this is from 2014 from the Star. Whitby Plastics recycler denies shipping trash to the Philippines. A Whitby businessman accused of illegally shipping mounds of trash masked as recyclable plastics to the Philippines is flatly denying the charge. Quote, their story of this garbage thing is just driving me nuts, says Jim Macris, owner of Chronic Inc., a business that sends mixed plastics across the Pacific to be sorted in the Philippines and sold for recycling. Quote, anybody who's in plastic, who knows plastic, will tell you it's the stupidest thing I've heard in my entire life, Macris said. Local media in the Philippines responded this week that a 50 container shipment arrived in Manila from Canada last year. Because it was declared as plastic for recycling, the country's Bureau of Customs said Macris company broke the law by shipping, quote, tons of garbage consisting of household trash and some adult diapers. The Philippines Daily Inquirer reported that the Bureau of Customs is investigating the 150-worker plant in Venezuela City, started by Macris to sort and sell the plastic he ships. Macris, who began his Philippines recycling venture nearly a year ago, said the alleged trash-filled containers were part of his second shipment to the country. He said the contents, which he brought from a recycling firm in Vancouver, were 95% plastic, but also contained some paper and aluminum, not aluminium, that one would find in a standard household recycling bin. His first 30-container delivery made it past customs without a problem, he said. Macris told the Star he suspects someone along the chain of delivery wanted to be paid off before his second shipment is allowed through, but he's not sure. This is beyond even understanding what's going on, he said. I think everything was just misunderstood really badly. A Foreign Affairs Trade and Development Canada spokesperson said the government hasn't been advised of the situation, but will monitor developments through Canadian officials in the Philippines. Bolivar Bao, an official at the Philippines consulate in Toronto, met with Macris on Tuesday. At this point, we're still trying to confirm his story, said Bao. We'll be doing our best to determine the circumstances surrounding his allegations. I scroll down a bit. Under the Basel Convention, to which Canada and the Philippines are signatories, it is illegal to ship hazardous waste internationally except in special circumstances. Macris insisted that it wouldn't be possible for such waste to get into his shipments, which are also inspected before they leave Canada, he said. He added that anyone with a brain could see that it makes no sense to ship garbage overseas. It costs $40 per ton to dump garbage in Canada, but $80 per ton to ship his recycling material to the Philippines, he said. The garbage accusation isn't the only hardship Macris has faced. Those first 30-container shipment made it past the Philippines customs. Macris claimed he hasn't seen a dime of the profits thus far and claimed there might be cost of inflation at the Philippines end of his endeavor. Quote, I'm going to wait 48 hours, he said, expressing hope his shipment will be deemed acceptable and allowed past customs. It's doing business overseas. I think that's the biggest problem, he said. Yeah. 5 years later from 2014. Yeah. I think declaring war is maybe an unintended consequence from this footnote story from 2014. Wow, right? Things can escalate pretty quickly. I mean, man, life moves fast. One minute you think you're just exporting plastics, and the next minute you're inciting an international incident and maybe starting a war between Canada and the Philippines? Wow, I bet you didn't expect that after Easter. Last story for today is, do you remember, and it's going back a long time in our political news cycle, but there was a time in Canada where Justin Trudeau threatened to take Andrew Scheer to court for libel, I guess. And Andrew Scheer said, please do, as soon as possible. Please, can you get that done? Here's Andrew Scheer tweeting, quote, Trudeau is threatening to sue me for talking about his corruption scandal. SNC, do you guys remember that? I continue to stand by my statement, and so I'm happy to repeat it for him right now. I look forward to discussing this in court when Justin Trudeau finally speaks under oath live. And Justin Trudeau kept threatening him. And I saw this meme days since last lawsuit threat. I think it's actually 11 or 12 maybe, because this was maybe he was talking about it on the other day, but Andrew Scheer talked about it on the 10th, so maybe 21 days. But I wonder how that's going to play out. I wonder if Trudeau's just going to hope it goes away, or if he brings up the lawsuit after the writ is dropped, or what? Maybe a summertime lawsuit to pair with the Mark Norman trial, or just after he makes Lametti give SNC the deferred prosecution agreement. I wonder which one is going to happen. Man, there's so many balls in the air, Mr. Trudeau. I'm interested to see what happens next, including with Mr. Duarte, president of the Philippines. Whew, that could be another ball you weren't expecting. What will you do? And what's with the eyes? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca and canadapoly.com if you've got some time. We'd love to have you join the conversation. And thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.